So it all starts in 1987, exactly 30 years ago, a $5,000 investment in the company that has turned into a company with a revenue of $75 billion. How did that happen? How did we go from 16 employees back in 1987 to 180,000 employees today? That's remarkable. The company also made it to, it was actually the first privately owned company from China to make the Fortune 500 list by the year 2010. And today it stands in the top 100 of the world's most valuable companies on that list. Tremendous progress. So I'm taking you down this trip down memory lane of Huawei to understand who is Huawei. So back in 1987, it all starts with its founder, Ren Zhifei. Ren Zhifei is right here. He's the man who started it all. And according to Chinese regulation at the time, you needed to have a minimum capital of $5,000, 20,000 Chinese yuan, to get your company started. Unfortunately, Ren did not have the money. He did not have 5,000. So he got 5 people to invest with him into this company to have the minimum capital investment required. And soon, Huawei began its journey as a telecom equipment trader. On the screen behind me, you see the Huawei office in 1988, the year after its creation. Just a regular apartment building, and the address is 16 A Block, Nanyu, Shenzhen. But a lot of things has changed then in Shenzhen. This was the headquarters 30 years ago, and today it would take 10 minutes to go around the entire campus in Shenzhen by bus. That is the transformation from that perspective. So in the 1991, Huawei introduced its first independent product, self-produced through its own engineering efforts, their own PBX of the time. And this picture showcases some of the true pioneers of these guys who were the first marketing team. Makes me think of the first pictures of people who have transformed technology elsewhere in the world. These guys are very happy, have a great future ahead of them, but I don't think they were even imagining creating a company that would have a turnover of 75 billion 28 years later. I don't think so, but very optimistic, and they had a fantastic future ahead of them. The same year, Huawei's founder, Mr. Ren, visited Silicon Valley. That was a very important visit because that's when the company established its first partnership with IBM that would become very important in developing the technology of the company. We move forward to 1998. Huawei started to expand into large metropolitan cities in China. And as Miko mentioned, China is huge, 1.4 billion people. There are 150 cities that have over 1 million inhabitants. There are over 12 urban centers with way over 10 million inhabitants. Huge potential. And again, it makes you humble when you come from this part of the world when the population of Finland is 5.5 million. We move over to July 2003, Huawei's mobile business division was established. And with this, the journey to make it possible began. And then, in the same year, and now we come to the distributed base station. How many of you remember this? This was transformational for the company. This is the distributed base station that basically became the launch pad for Huawei's success in the telecom infrastructure. This dramatically reduced the total cost of ownership of all the operators it would serve after this. It looks like something that would belong in an art museum, but it was transformational in terms of its technology, in terms of the dramatic leap forward in innovation in telecoms. And then in 2006, it was time for a new logo. A logo that shows Huawei's customer-centric principles. And it's really something the company lives by today. And actually, the first founding principles in the Huawei strategy was very clear. It says, serving customers is the only reason Huawei exists. The only reason Huawei exists, our customers. A big technological breakthrough happened again in 2009 when Huawei successfully delivered the world's first LTE EPC commercial network for a Nordic teleoperator, TeliaSonera, that many of us here know, in Oslo, Norway. The same year, Reuters reported that Huawei was named world's top patent seeker, becoming the first Chinese company to head the United Nations World Intellectual Property Rankings, the WIPO list. And then, 2004, are you still with me? You're still with me, good. 2004 saw the release of Huawei's first mature commercial 3G mobile. And these have really cool names. The U626. And it was reputed for the key to opening that 3G door was the U326. And in 2005, Huawei's model, the U626, was declared the best 3G smartphone by Charlton Media Group. Only 2 years later, 2007, Huawei lit up the Chinese CDMA market with the C2280. Great name that again. The market's first model to ship more than 1 million products. And then 2 years later, 2009, rapid growth was the spring of mobile broadband. Huawei officially joined the Android camp. Who remembers that? It was a big day. And debuted the first Android smartphone at the World Mobile Congress in Spain, which most of you have attended, I'm sure. I have many times. In September, Huawei partnered with T-Mobile to launch its new Pulse phone, the world's first prepaid Android smartphone. In 2003, another milestone at Huawei became the third largest smartphone manufacturer in the world. And this year, in June, July 2017, Huawei became the second largest smartphone manufacturer during that time, something David mentioned a little bit earlier. 2015, closer to home now, closer to our time, was another great year for Huawei, showing an unbelievable 73% growth in consumer business group year on year. 73%. When it comes to products, the year since 2011 have been really busy for Huawei. In 2012, Huawei introduced its first Huawei broadband phone models in January at the Consumer Electronics Show, as you know, in the US. Huawei introduced a new Huawei Ascend range and a fashion smartphone with the launch of the Huawei Ascend, the P1. I think everybody remembers that, the first P1, which was actually the world's slimmest smartphone, 6.68 millimeters. 2013, June 18th, the company released the world's slimmest new generation flagship smartphone, the Ascend P6 in London. Later that year, Huawei introduced its independent sub-brand, Honor. And now 2014 was really an explosive year for Huawei. The premium models, Mate 7, P7, G7, steadily gained momentum, while the Honor 6 and 6 Plus successfully targeted younger users. And that was my son's first phone. I remember it very well. Daddy, daddy, no. The flagship Mate 7 was released in September in Berlin with more than 2 million units sold for the first 3 months. Unbelievable figures. 2015, the Huawei P8 was released and the phone received the best award from the European Consumer Smartphones at ASA. We already mentioned that. 2016 now, Huawei released its flagship mobile phone, the Huawei P9. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The Honor 8 was launched in not too far away from here in Stockholm, Sweden. And 1.5 million units of Honor 8 were sold in less than 50 days in 25 countries around the world. In 2017, Huawei was ranked at the top of the smartphone manufacturer in China, Q1 2017, and from there, this year, Huawei holds a 20% market share in that great market. Everywhere, and ever more strengthening its position, Huawei launched the P10 series, the world's first Leica front-facing cameras that we looked at earlier. And then came the MateBooks. Has anybody seen, touched a MateBook yet? Great, I want that. That's my next computer, I think. They were really the E, the D, and the X series. Great machines. And just a few weeks ago, on October 16th, last month, the Mate 10 Pro and with an AI chipset was launched in Munich. We'll be talking about that a little bit later.